So Transformers Rise of the Beast is set in the 90s. This is a funny one for me to cover because I am not a big Transformers guy. I've seen, probably just like you or most other people, a few of them. You know, I watched a couple of those Michael Bay features. They had Shia LaBeouf running around, and I remember they had one with Mark Wahlberg in it, and there was one with Anthony Hopkins. They've been moving around, I think, effectively. But now Transformers are going back to the past, specifically 1994, when a young Anthony Ramos, playing a character named Noah Diaz, is in the middle of stealing a car to help pay for his brother's surgery. which just sounds so phony, like just saying it out loud, but it's fine. Is stealing a car to pay for his brother's surgery, when suddenly he discovers that he's not actually stealing a car, but what he's stealing is a transformer, and he immediately gets swept into saving the universe and going with Optimus Prime and Bumblebee and friends to meet the Maximals, these animal-oriented transformers that don't turn into cars. They turn into like a giant gorilla or a giant eagle, and ultimately fight the bad Autobots and save the world. I'm not the biggest Transformers guy. The movie is Transformers Rise of the Beast. Andy, what'd you think?
So it was all right. It was, I think, a lot better than the Michael Bay films. It's still a little bit, just kind of suffers from blockbuster virus, where it's like a big loud thing. The plot is very much, there's lots of MacGuffins. It's like, oh, there's this thing that we have to go here and get to prevent the end of the world, and then there's a big, almost like video game ending where it's like, oh, we have to first stop this while this team A stops that and team B stops this, and then and we'll have robot fights. It's very, very, like, again, nostalgia bait, because it's like the younger brother comes in and he's like, oh man, I can't beat the Super Mario Brothers game on my original Game Boy. I'm going to go watch Mighty Morphin Power Rangers with my Wu-Tang poster on the wall. It's like, we get it. It's in the 90s. But it's fine. It again, I think all these movies, they suffer from the human characters. The human characters are fine in this, but let's, like, can we just have Optimus Prime be the main character for once? Or the robots just be the main characters, and, have maybe the human characters be the side, because then you have to, like, shoehorn them in. They kind of go all over the world. The evil robots come, they fight. There's some good action sequences. There's almost too many characters, and we don't have enough screen time for everyone. The Maximals don't really get a lot of screen time, even though they're kind of the part of the big poster and the big promotional push. And funny enough, Pete Davidson's character Mirage actually is kind of the main Transformer in this one. It's a mixed bag. Some of it works, some of it doesn't.
Pete Davidson's Transformer Mirage is the smallest one on the poster. He's all the way in the back row. You can barely see him if you're looking at it, but he's on there. I think this movie is a lesser Transformers movie for sure, and there's a few reasons for that. Number one, very poor live action sequences. It's directed by Steven Caple Jr., who previously did Creed 2. Before that, he did just a couple of indies. He hasn't really stepped into, like, a big budget like this, and, like, he leaned way too hard on the CGI. Like, he really lazy car sequences. The live action stuff is fine, but you don't really get a lot of it. You don't spend a lot of time with Noah, like, getting to know his life and who he is. The first act moves real fast, and then you're right into Transformer stuff, and from there it's all wide shots and CGI. Like, we'll put Optimus Prime in here, and we'll put this character over here, and like, I think what I like the most about Michael Bay's Transformers movies is Michael Bay knows live action comes first. He's like, the explosions need to be real, and then we'll dress them up with CGI. And Steven Caple Jr., and it seems like where this franchise is headed, it leans more on, like, just get the lazy wide shot, right? Use a wide angle lens, and then we'll just figure it out in post, like the Marvel approach, right? We'll do it later. We'll hire a VFX studio, and they'll make this movie for us. And that's a shame. Like, Michael Bay would flip cars for his Transformers movies. In this movie, I think there's, like, one kind of car stunt where like a car runs half up a ramp and jumps off, and then a cop car comes behind it and rolls. That's like it. Other than that, it's like doing donuts in parking lots and then dressing up and making them look like Transformers. And like I know a lot of people who watch Transformers movies will be fine with that. It's like the Fast and Furious franchise, right? Like you don't need it to be real or anything. But for me, like somebody who doesn't spend a lot of time with these movies, that was something I really valued. Like that was an aspect of those earlier films that like really worked. And this one just is kind of lazy in that regard.
Yeah, I think there's only like one driving scene, and that's kind of where these movies excel, are the like action scenes where you're like on a highway and all the cars are kind of chasing each other, so you have, you know, a chance for the Transformers to actually transform in and out of their car forms and shapes. And there's like one sequence when they're on a highway that's in the trailer, but outside of that, they're kind of just running around fighting like hand-to-hand combat, which is fine, but that's not what we really want to see. We want to see like car stuff. Adjacent stuff.
Right. And like that's something Bay is super good at. Like, and yeah, you like there's a lot of you sent me a sequence after we saw this from Transformers we hadn't seen, of Optimus like chasing down some dude on a highway. And yeah, like the camera is going 100 miles an hour and it's 4 inches off the concrete. And like Bay is just like swinging this thing around and blowing stuff up. And then they add CGI. Like, and that like that's what I think works best about those, but I don't want to get stuck on it. I do want to talk about performances. Anthony Ramos as Noah Diaz is fine in this movie. Like I don't have any problems with him at all. He is, I think, aging out of playing this like young up and comer. Yeah, like he's not quite in high school here. He's supposed to be like a former soldier who was enlisted and got out. So he's, I would say, early 20s, right? Like that's where he's kind of supposed to be, and he does not look like he's in his early 20s anymore. Formerly, you saw him in The Heights and Hamilton. He's great in both of those, sings and dances. So this is a bit of a departure for him, a bit more drama. Additionally, I wanted to mention Luna Lauren Velez as his mom. She's Miles Morales' mom in Spider-Verse. Yeah, I think same person, and she was on set for one day. She's at the beginning of the movie. She's at the end of the movie. And I was trying to figure out when I was watching the movie why we were moving away from New York and why we're going to like, where do they end up? Peru, yeah. And number one, that's to meet the Maximals, and two, that's so we can get out in the middle of nowhere so the Transformers can fight, right? Like you've seen the you've seen the trailer, like you've seen that big one-off fight scene they got out there where there's all kinds of things going on. Of course, that can't be in New York. That'd blow up our budget. That's got to be in Peru, out in the middle of nowhere, so we can make a CGI battlefield. You know, like. That's just it. Like my eyes glaze over, man. Like I'm so like that's where the movie loses me, you know. And it's a shame. Like I think Transformers movies, you should get more invested as it goes. For me, like after the first act, I got less, you know.
Yeah, and movies like these, they really need to simplify the plots, and they always end up doing the opposite. Like there's this whole thing about there's this secret key that's the key to go home. That the Transformers are trying to find, but if the bad guys get it, then they can destroy the planet. And then like the last third, there's, like I said, it's like a video game. It's like first we need to do this, so then we can do this, so then we can do this, so then we can stop the machine, and then we can save the world. And it's a huge, it's like MacGuffin after MacGuffin, instead of having like, let's develop an actual conflict here that we can like flesh out and like base our characters around. And I mean, I don't know why I want these to like be Shakespeare, but it would really help if you like, you know, let's try to develop some real conflicts of interest between parties or something. If you're not going to have like these over the top action sequences.
Yeah, I mean that's something I think like the Michael Bay laid down in those old films that like really has gotten us here, right? Has built the franchise. Like Bay treated those movies like they were super serious. He does the same thing with all of his movies, right? Ambulance is a super serious like movie from Michael Bay, and God, what's that movie with The Rock? Him and Mark Wahlberg. I don't know. They're both
Pain and
Gain. Yes, like even though they are goofy on the surface, like Bay is like these things are like biblical to him. Like he's like, I'm going to present this as straightforward as possible, and I think like that's what keeps Transformers grounded. And this feels like a cartoon, like. I agree, by the way, like it's time to just give Optimus Prime his own movie. Even though I do think his voice actor, I don't remember his name.
Peter Cullen.
Dude, he's got to retire. Like, I know he's the voice of Optimus, but like he sounds a billion years old. And I know Optimus is supposed to be a billion years old, but like, dude, he sounds like Carl from Up. Like he sounds so old.
Oh my
like
God.
you can hear his wheelchair squeaking in the background. Like, let that man rest. All right, like take it easy. Meanwhile, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say Optimus Primal, voiced by Ron Perlman, sounds so much better. He's the more convincing voice.
Yeah, if you're looking for somebody new, like I hate to say it, but like Pete Davidson's Mirage is a fine Transformers character. Like he's snarky and young and kind of mouths off, and like I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that character has been in Transformers before in one fashion or another, but like even he is more fun than like Optimus Prime, who just sounds like a billion years old, man. Like just. Like stop, hang it up. You don't sound like I feel like Optimus Prime sounds in my head. It's like using what's his name, the old voice actor for Sam Fisher in the Splinter Cell games. Like you gotta upgrade here. It's fine. And I'm sure there's a lot of Transformers fans who are gonna hit me in the comments for it. But any other thoughts on this for recommendations, Andy? I don't mean to just like slam it and leave, but I do want to.
I was just thinking about some of the action. There are moments, a lot of times, like in the middle of the climax, there'll be like a very hype moment. I think of in Endgame when Captain America picks up the hammer, things like that, or when the portals open and everyone comes through. There's a couple of moments that are supposed to be like the big hype moment where something you didn't expect happened. And when they happen, you just kind of roll your eyes. Like there's several moments that are like this is it. This is like your big surprise. There's a couple of those, especially some eye-rolling stuff in some post-credit stuff that is supposed to get you excited for things to come. Yeah. And I couldn't have, my eyes almost rolled out of my skull. Like, and it's like you could argue that it's a kids movie, but a lot of this is like it's nostalgia, it's 80s nostalgia, so it is aimed at like an older audience. So I don't know, but it has done better business than both the solo Bumblebee movie and the last Transformers movie, The Last Night. So they're going to keep making these because it's, I think, a financial success for what it is.
Yeah. Like, great for Transformers, right? Huge W. Any other thoughts or recommendations?
No, I think I'm ready.
Andy, would you recommend Transformers Rise of the Beast?
I think I would say save it for streaming. It's definitely better than the last few Transformers movies we got. It's not quite as good as Bumblebee. I don't think it's not too long, which helps. I think it's right at 2 hours. There are some fun action sequences. Pete Davidson is surprisingly funny and good as his newer character, Mirage, who's the Porsche car. Some of it, like the plot's all over the place. The action isn't as cool as some of the previous films, but it's if you're interested in this, I would say save it for streaming.
I would say skip, man. Like, I know I'm not wise on Transformers movies. Like, maybe the last few have been bad, but like, I just don't think this is the best showing for this franchise. Like, I'm sure there have been better. It reminds me of like one of the middling Fast and Furious movies. Like, you could completely skip this movie and probably miss nothing for whatever's coming next. Like, it just feels really segmented. It's set in 1994. Like, I don't think there's anything in here that's like vital to the franchise going forward, unless it's the Maximals. But like, when Gorilla Ron Perlman shows up in the next Transformers movie, you're not going to need to have seen this one to get what's going on. You're fine. Transformers Rise of the Beast, middling at best, in my humble opinion. With that, we got one more movie to get to. Like I said at the top, we don't normally do 3 movies on this podcast. It's summer blowout. We got to talk about this one. Andy's going to take the summary. Please, Andy, take it away.